Today's episode of The Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown is brought to you by Jennifer C. at HomeLifeCultureLink.com, Nino Simeka at MortgageGodfather.ca, and Jewelry Forever at JewelryForever.ca. Enjoy the show.
Broadcasting live from Glenmore Record Studios in Toronto, this is The Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown, your Sunday morning talk show with interesting guests, live musical performances, and the most fun you can fit in your coffee cup. Hosted by Scott Dion Brown and Regine Alaina, this is The Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 130. 130. It's one of the tens, everybody. 130 of The Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown. I'm your host, Scott Dion Brown, as the mug says. And I'm joined, as always, by the greatest co-host in the entire galaxy, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only,
Regine Alaina. Happy Sunday, everyone, and happy Mother's Day to all of you who are celebrating Mother's Day today.
Yes, a very happy Mother's Day to all you wonderful mothers out there. Wonderful mothers out there. It's very early. Hey, Troy Bernier, good morning. Hi, Troy. How are you? Troy of the Miami Science Fiction Film Festival, former guest on the show.
It's been a minute.
Yeah,
it's been a year.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's already been a year. I know. Well, how are you, Troy? And Rayvon Johnson is here as well. Here for you, Josh. Hello, Rayvon. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
And to my own mom, I'd like to say Happy Mother's Day, Mama. Love you. And
Happy
I'll
Mother's
give you a
Day
call.
to Mama. Sorry, I totally interrupted you.
Yeah, I would. Well, anyway, happy birthday, Bob. I'll call you after the show. And Regine.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I guarantee you both our moms are here on the show. So happy Mother's Day to you too, Mrs. Brown.
There you go. Oh, yes, that's right. Happy Mother's Day, Regine's mom. There we go.
There you go. We got that out of the way.
Yeah. Busy week, Regine. How was your week?
I feel like my birthday still continued. You know, once it hits, it hits. I celebrate my birthday hard, apparently.
It's a birthday week, birthday 2-week celebration, maybe birthday month.
Exactly.
We can even make it a birthday year.
Why not? How was your week, Scott, besides chopping off your hair left, right, and center?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what the thing is? I've thought about it because, you know, a few times you ask me when I come on the show and you're like, did you get a haircut? And I'm like, no, I didn't get a haircut. But now the truth is I've realized is I have gotten a haircut. I've been getting a haircut.
Getting or giving yourself a haircut?
Yes. I've been giving myself a haircut. In fact, you could even argue that I'm still in the process of having the haircut because every day, even this morning, when I woke up and I was looking in the mirror and I was like, oh, there's a little long piece here. And now, like, especially on the sides, like, I've chopped off so much that I have had a haircut. It's like very different. It's very different.
You know what's going to be really bad about that? So you know how there's like the pandemic hair where everyone leaves their houses with a head full of like half grays or really long bushy hair and untrimmed facial hair. Scott's going to come out of this with patches of bald spots because he just snipped where he's not supposed to.
Yeah. Well, that's the danger. That's the danger is that, like, as I'm cutting, right, I'm like, I have to be so careful because my theory is that, or strategy is that whatever I cut off, when I get a real haircut, the barber will take off more than that, right? So I kind of try to find, like, he won't go this short, right? But there's a couple areas like around the sides where I like pull it off and then I just go like along the sides, and I'm like, I hope he makes that shorter than that. I will say this: I'm not displeased with my work so far.
But that's also because we don't see the end result. All we see is headphones on your face covering your hair mishaps, perhaps, and you wear your sit down or your Scott Dion Brown hat. So how are we really supposed to know what your hair really looks like?
That's true. That's also the problem I have as well, is that I can't see the back, right?
Oh, no.
I see myself here. So like, who knows what the back looks like? I don't know.
So wait, when you're on
Anyway.
set filming, do they make comments about your hair, or do they just shuffle
Actually,
it around?
thus far, I haven't gotten any. The weirdest thing was like the last time I was on set recently, and it was even longer than this.
Mhm.
And the woman starts styling it for me, and she didn't say anything. Like, it didn't look weird to her, but then she's like, "Is this how you normally wear it?" Right? And I was like, now I'm like, but that's just because I haven't been able to get a haircut. Like, no, I do not wear my hair like this ever. But I'm like, this is fine. So, but so far nobody's been like, you know what I'm waiting for? I'll know I've gone too far when like next time I'm in the chair, they're like, "Did you cut this yourself?" As long as I don't get that comment, I feel like we're okay.
You know what,
But-
Scott? You need to take advice from our guest, and we'll let our guest tell you what they did to their hair during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, good call. Okay, let's introduce our guests. We have two very talented authors on the show today, and they were introduced to us through the our previous guests that we've had on, Ali and Raisa of APSO, and so these two authors are involved in a book that is going to be coming out through APSO that's involving a whole bunch of different authors, all contributing, I guess, segments of the book. I believe that's how it's working. We'll find out from them. But ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm sit-down welcome to Mary Long and Josh Robinson. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
How are you
to the
guys?
sit down.
Very good. How are you guys?
Pretty good. So just piggybacking off what we were just saying, tell us a bit about, how has your COVID experience with hair been?
Josh.
Well, at the moment I'm rocking a later version of my COVID hairstyle. Very neatly combed, trimmed. But in the early stages, I remember it was tough. Came to a point where my dad had me sit in a bathtub, and he trimmed it all up. I was rocking a buzz cut.
Oh
you know,
my
with
god.
little patches, a little more, little patches, a little less.
Oh, dad
It was-
haircuts. Love it.
Bad haircuts. But to be honest, I got to do the same to him. So it kind of balanced out. We were living the moment.
Mm.
Had you ever had a buzz style haircut before that, or was that like the first time you had ever gone that way?
You're not gonna believe me. I've gone bald 3 times.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wow.
in high school.
well, you have a
Yeah.
really good head of hair. So, I mean, keep buzzing cutting
Yeah.
it.
I've experienced like a headband look. I grew it out, done a headband. I've went to the opposite end where I just took everything off. It keeps the excitement in there.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. So then you were no stranger to trying different looks. So you're just like, all right, let's do it. I mean, that's the thing. The pandemic is the time to do it.
No one was seeing me, so
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mary, I know it depends depending where you are and what the lockdown is and what it's like wherever you are. But what's it been like for you in terms of being trapped in our this pandemic age we're in?
Sure, I thought about going bald. I elected not to. But I thought if now would be the time, it would be a chance to experiment. I'm in New York City, New Jersey area. So we were on lockdown. We were hit pretty hard and not quite as intense as Canada, but I spent months in my apartment, which was very small. And so I reached a point where like I could understand we weren't allowed, they closed the barbers. You could not go outside. You could not even import one. Like there were so many rules. And so at one point I just got frustrated and my hair had been quite long. I took scissors and I went
No.
around my head and I seriously did. I cut the whole thing because I was like, I cannot take this anymore. I'm so done with this. And so I cut it. And it was liberating and it I've cut my hair before, but this was kind of a botched job. It was just to get this off of me sort of a thing. I
Wow.
wasn't so focused on the appearance. And then I went like a week later and I got a trim from someone who could actually make it look nice for me. But it was an emotional haircut. I'll say it was. I wasn't focused on the outside world and my appearance and how it looked for others. I was focused on my comfort and my desire to take an action, and I sort of vented my frustration through the scissors. And so I chopped off like 4 or 5 inches and then got it cleaned up a little later. And that's the only haircut I've had in a year and a half.
Oh
so,
my goodness.
Nice.
But it's okay. My hair does all right.
There you go.
Well, I can imagine that's the thing. Like, I even noticed when it was getting, long, and mine also tends to wing out, like it goes like, right, like this. So when it gets to a certain length, like, I mean, I don't mind it, but it was just getting. But the thing is, when it gets long, it starts to get heavy, and that's why when I see like even my girlfriend's hair, like it's like girls tend to have a lot more hair, and when it gets to a certain length, I just feel like it starts to get, I don't know, unmanageable. But I'd also be. I don't know. My girlfriend hasn't, and I know Regine hasn't. I've asked Regine before on past episodes. I'm like, you ever just want to just get some of it off there? And or Mary Finder was like, yes, it's going. Bam.
I'm like, no, I can't. As much as I want to cut my hair, like, let's be real, I want to cut it, but I also have a pageant in 3 months, so maybe not. But Scott, if you really want to know what it's like to have long hair, I mean, you had long hair on Halloween. I'm sure you have a wig a lot longer than that. Just
That's true.
Put it on for a day and get the feel of what it's like.
And just wear it around and just see what it's like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just
all
throw
right,
it black. Flick it.
Exactly.
I probably put it in like, like also man buns and stuff. That's pretty popular. I've never done that, but I know that that's a look.
Please don't.
That I could try, like samurai hair. Could be
You'll
good.
look
Say
like your
safely
brother.
that in
Don't
1
do
year
it.
you'll have a man bun. Am I right, Scott?
Hey, you know what? We'll see. We'll never know.
This day next year, episode 260. Scott, man bun.
No.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Troy Bernier says, my hair grew so long I needed fewer pillows.
Oh my god.
Oh, there you go. That's convenient. Little less laundry to do. One less pillowcase to wash.
But more shampoo.
Wonderful. Yeah. Oh, I guess more shampoo. That's true. So it balances out, I guess. You save on detergent, but you make up for it in shampoo costs.
Exactly.
And good morning. Eli is here. And Zach Attack is also here. Scott, what's this person do? Well, there are 2 of them, and these 2 guests are authors, among other things, but they're also authors. And in fact, we should talk about that. So, you guys are involved in this book project that's being put together by APSO, and tell us a bit about what is the idea behind the book, and then we'll go into your individual contributions. But let's start first. What's this project about? Whoever wants to go.
Mary, would you like to start that?
Sure. So the book is called Be in the Conversation, and the topic is around mental health. So we have quite a number of different, very multi-talented and diverse background co-authors on this project. Maybe 12 or 15 total. And we're each writing one chapter of the book and bringing it in as a compilation. But the overall theme is this topic of mental health and how to be in the conversation around that. So bringing all of these different ideas, sort of rethinking some of these bigger questions and bringing it all together and finding a way to relate to one another and gift that to the community. So Josh and I are both co-authors of this book, each have our own individual chapter. So I have my topic, he has his topic, and each of the other authors have their own individual topics. So it's quite the collaboration, and I'm really proud to be a part of this book. As you mentioned, it is from APSO. We connected in with Ali and Raisa. So thank you to them. And Josh, what do you want to say about this project?
I feel like it's an opportunity for people who are aware of what's going on in the world, right? They're seeing social issues, they're seeing problems, especially during the COVID time. I felt like, a lot of people went through a depressing stage, right? Being stuck at home, it's not easy. And then I know in Ontario, I'm not sure about other places, but in Ontario, we're in lockdown again, right before the summer. So I felt like it was a good opportunity for people to tackle, different parts of a conversation. As we said, like my topic personally, I spoke about the seduction of ego, right? Mary, she has her own topic, and we just touched on each different topics and tried to share what we know and kind of like ask questions where we open up to thinking. It's quite a read, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's a very good book, and I'm happy that we all collaborated and it came out well.
Awesome. When is I know the book launch is, do you know when it's planning to be released? And is it going to be on Amazon? Where can people find it?
I believe it's coming June or July. We're still kind of finalizing the exact date. But it'll be on Amazon. A few of us were going to release our own websites, and it'll be there.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit first about the individual topics that you each talked about. So let's start with Mary, and so tell us about what's your chapter about, and how did you approach it?
Sure. So I thought about this topic for a long time. How do we be in the conversation? How do we invite others? And ultimately, I got brought back into the topic, the concept of self-love. I am a yoga teacher, so I came from this sort of perspective, and I really looked at our voices. So the topic is be in the conversation, and the four of us, you and I, we're here, we're having a chat. This is the sit down with Scott, Dion, Brown. You and I are conversing, but have you ever thought of looking inward at yourself and how you're speaking in your own voice to your own person in your own body? So I started there and I said, let's take a breath, sit and come into a stillness, right? I'm a yoga teacher, so come and sit still and breathe and bring to the point where the breath enters the mouth. Start there and begin your meditation. So looking at your teeth, your lips, your tongue, your mouth, your throat, your voice box, and like really internally resonating. That's the chamber from which we are speaking outwardly, and then talking with the inner voice inside. So bringing some awareness into this part of the conversation, and then looking at self-love concepts. So how you show up in the world and how you interact or reflect with other people is a reflection of your own inner voice. And so if you struggle with criticism or negative self-talk, or you're putting yourself, or maybe you're putting others down, maybe you show up as a bully in the world, maybe that's because your own inner voice is big and mean and nasty. And so sometimes the biggest bullies are the most traumatized people, and what they really need is self-love. And so I brought up these sorts of topics and proposed some solutions on how to change that inner voice, and particularly when you're experiencing inner conflict, outer conflict with others or inner conflict with yourself, you have two competing ideas, how you might be able to resolve that so you can be in a sense of united inner peace and wholeness, and you bring more peace and harmony in your relations with others because you're at peace with yourself. So this was my concept. Again, I'm a yoga teacher, and so I lead classes on these sort of things. So that's what I wrote about. And I thought it was a nice segue into all of these other voices that we have going on. If we can relate really well and lovingly with ourselves and each other, we'll have much more success as a group and a whole. So that's my topic. Self-love.
Awesome.
Very cool. And Josh, let's touch on your subject a little bit.
Yeah. First of all, before I go on to mine, I had a chance to read Mary's chapter, and I'll tell you this: her way of using words to give like this personal touch was phenomenal. Especially being a yoga instructor, kind of guiding that process through a chapter. It's something that I feel the readers should keep their eyes out for. Coming back to my chapter, I'm talking about the seduction of ego, right? And I feel like ego is one of those things that people view as this bad thing, if there's an argument, they're like, hey guys, put your ego aside. But ego is more than that. There's different definitions for ego. depends on if you look at it from a general perspective, if you look at it from a psychological perspective. There's different perspectives, different meanings. So my whole thought process was, I'll give the definitions to the readers, and I'll kind of guide them towards how we could use that definition of ego to help the community, to help ourselves, right? If a person is egoistic for their own selfishness, be selfish about standing up for a social issue, right? So that's a perspective I try to hit. I try to give a different outlook on a common problem that we see, right? And I felt like it touched well with the different conversations we have in this one book, right? Coming back to self-love, if you're egoistic on keeping yourself healthy, keeping yourself happy, that's a win for you, right? And so on and so forth. It just goes on from there.
Awesome.
Cool. So the idea is like using the way you view your ego and trying to sort of so like, for example, someone's very, say, egotistical, but you could say that almost a way of harnessing it and targeting it towards a way of helping the community in some way.
Yes, pretty much. It's like, if I could be egoistic on, making money for myself, for example, I want to be filthy rich. I'm pretty sure I could guide that same egoistic intentions onto something else. I could be egoistic on, supporting Black Lives Matter. I can be egoistic towards stopping Asian hate. I can be egoistic into helping my community. That could be as small as helping my neighbor, take your grocery bags in. Maybe not now because we're in COVID, but just a general perspective, right? I feel like there's no limit to helping people and having pure intentions. So it just depends on your mindset. Everything starts with your mental health, right? So that's kind of my, my perspective on this whole thing.
Cool. So in terms of the book overall, I don't know if you guys have had the chance to read the whole thing or everybody's chapters yet or not, but I just want to be curious, like, what do you think, who's the target, say, audience for the book, or what do you want a reader to try to get from the reading the book? What type of experience do you want them to get from reading it?
I guess I'll start first. This book is not just for one particular audience. This is a book anyone can read. Anyone from a child to, a busy teen to a person who's just retired, anyone. It's all about taking care of yourself and taking care of your community. It's a part of being in the conversation, right? You don't have to just, put it into one group. Like, for example, we all watch the news, right? We all are getting educated on the topics going on in the world. This is kind of like that same thing, there's no just one person.
I see. Yeah, depending on, I guess people will get, depending where they are, different walks of life, there's something sort of there for everybody.
Yeah. And it's interesting because once you read the book, you go through different chapters, right? You see that you'll pick up on a thing or two. Maybe you won't pick up on the whole message. Maybe if you keep reading the book, maybe you'll pick up on it. But the first time you read it, from each chapter, you'll pick up one thing, maybe like one question that's there, and you'll be like, when you're driving on the road, you'll think about it. You're like, hey, that question, it's really jogging my memory. Or like, how can I change myself? Or how can I take care of myself better? It's those type of questions that start, jogging our minds, making us think, making us communicate. A lot of good conversation starters, I'll tell you that. In the book, if you pick up on it, there's a lot of good conversation starters too.
Cool. Actually, one thing I would want to ask about is, so the idea is, so it's a whole bunch of different authors contributing, I guess, their own viewpoint, right, on a particular topic. Does the book overall, does it have, say, like a kind of a unifying goal or message, or do you find that, like, because it's different people with maybe different philosophies contributing, are there sort of different ways of looking where you're going to see different perspectives that even sometimes they might even be different from each other, but you're kind of getting different views from different people? Or is there kind of an overarching unifying message?
I feel like for that type of perspective, right? It's never, I love saying this phrase, it's never black or white. It's always gray, right? It also, like, for example, if I give a perspective, the reader might also have a different perspective. We got to take that into consideration, right? So when they see these two considerations, there's going to be some points that they agree with, some points they don't. And that's totally fine, you know, as long as we respect each other's perspectives. It's totally fine to, like, I might like coffee, you might like tea, right? But we both want caffeine. That's the thing,
True.
right? So that's just the way we look at it. And of course, you know, I might like Toyota better, you might like Honda better, but we both want to drive a car again. So it's just about, you know, seeing the other side and saying, hey, you know what, it kind of makes sense.
Cool. I would like to ask a little bit about sort of your own life experiences that brought you to where you are. I guess we'll start with Mary, because I know, Mary, you started in sort of the mathematics engineering side, and I think you've had a fairly significant shift in terms of career. Now you're saying you've shifted more towards yoga and holistic healing. And I did want to hear a bit about your journey from there, because those are two very different career paths. And I think it would make a very unique perspective, somebody who's kind of experienced both.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. Thank you for asking. I did begin in engineering. I'm in graduate school now, right? So I'm in an integrative medicine doctoral program. So I'm in natural medicine. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a yoga teacher. I have a dozen certifications in various healing modalities. Yoga is just one of them, but I'm on my way to being a doctor of integrative medicine.
Wow.
So yeah, thank you. It's very big. It's very exciting. It'll take some time. I'm not there yet. I'm not yet a doctor, but I am definitely a healer. I've always resonated on that vibration. I've always cared a lot about mental health. And when I was a little baby girl, I wanted to be a psychology doctor and a dance teacher.
Wow.
Because I understood what you could do with that. The subconscious mind is the body, right? So the body stores the memories of all of everything you've ever experienced, for better or for worse, good or bad. And when you work with the body, as through dance or yoga or other physical exercise, even martial arts training, when you work with the body, you are working with the subconscious mind and you are reprogramming it. And so yoga and dance and all of that meditation and mindfulness go hand in hand with the healthy mind, or in other words, psychology. I went into integrative medicine for like choosing your school, academic and political reasons, and sort of what branch of medicine do you want to be in. But I went into integrative medicine because that was more aligned with my personal interests. But I did start off as an engineer. And basically when I was a kid, I told you I wanted to be a dance teacher and a psychology doctor. That was my dream. I do teach dance and I do teach yoga, and I'm in process. I don't need to be a doctor. I just want to help people is really all I wanted. But I was really good at math and science when I was a kid. And so everyone told me to go into engineering. So I was sort of funneled into that because there's this really big push to get women in STEM. I had this amazing mathematical mind. I was memorizing numbers and patterns and electronics, and my uncle is an electrical engineer and my dad was a carpenter, and my mother was a programmer. Actually, she worked for Microsoft. And so I've just been around technology since a very, very young age. And so I went down that path, and I went and did 5 years of engineering school, and won't get into all the details, but worked on some really cool projects with electric vehicles and like power plants and critical infrastructure. I did some really amazing things. And then how did I get into this sort of career change? Well, so I have always had a natural interest in the healing arts. I've always sort of secretly wanted to do that, but I felt like society or the world told me I couldn't do it. And it was honestly a big part of it was like, well, you'll make more money in engineering. Like, that's practical. Like, you should go, like, if you get it, I have a degree in mathematics and computer science. Like, I could take over the world with that, y'all. Like, what, nobody's going to turn me down for, like, it's going to be good. I feel like I really have invested in myself and my future and my financial career. And I have so many amazing mathematical skills that translate to all these different industries. It even helps me in integrative medicine. It helps me in the doctoral route because as a healthcare practitioner, you need to look at data and numbers and statistics and addressing. We don't just help 100 individual little people. So I'm not just, all right, let me help you, Regine, and let me help you, Scott, and let me help you, Josh. It's and all those other. It's not just one-on-one. It's like doctors have their eyes on the whole communities. And so that actually requires good, solid mathematics skills to go and analyze and good logic to figure out where things are coming from. So it was not a bad thing. They may seem like they're very different at first, but they're really not. What I found in engineering, though, was that it was so logical and so just hyper mathematical and technical that it was sort of like only one side of my brain. It was just the logical, like, masculine side. And I really felt like sort of this feminine aspect of me, or this emotional, intuitive, dancey, like all the joy that is being a woman. I felt like that part was sort of suppressed in order to fit into this professional mold. And so I felt kind of low. And so I'd wanted to dance, but I felt like nobody's ever going to take me seriously. Like, I have to have a real job as a computer person. So that's how I felt kind of pressured. And then something happened it's going to take more of a somber tone. So quick dive down, a little more serious note. I mentioned that, so I was in Engineers Without Borders. So I'm involved in a number of philanthropic organizations, for example, working in Latin and South America. I worked in Jamaica. Engineers Without Borders is a nonprofit organization, and I was the vice president and public relations chair and the webmaster when I was in my university. So I'm 10 years out of school now. So I'm in graduate school at this time. But when I was an undergrad, I did multiple engineering projects in underdeveloped or third world countries. And so working in Latin America, Jamaica, and Ecuador. So partnering, I saw some real need in the community. Also, engineers were kind of a special breed. I don't know what to say. That we are uniquely poised to help solve quite a number of different worldwide problems. So I worked on Engineers Without Borders, or Engineers Sans Frontières. You're without borders, so international things. When I was working in these large projects, like electric cars, I work with Germany, big, like telling the power plants when to turn on and off, like working with electrical critical infrastructure. We have to think billions. We have to think millions of people. We relate to the world a little differently. So it's not just like you and I one-on-one. My little social circle does not have just 5 people in it. I've got people from 15 different countries that are my best friends. So I am relating from a global perspective with a really heart open sort of space. And that's, again, where I wrote my chapter around like oneness and this voice and really relating, because I've done a lot of work there in that heart space. So when I'm working on these big projects from this mathematical perspective, I'm trying to solve problems and create technology that serves everyone, right? So we have to consider everyone's perspective. Well, I was in the Bay Area, worked in California and the Silicon Valley on these electric car projects, for example. And simultaneously in the Bay Area, we were experiencing an epidemic of suicide. So we were experiencing region-wide giant mental health crisis. And I was just an engineer at that time. I was not in any way in any of the healing arts. But as a numbers and data science person, I was asked to look into why are we having these huge numbers of suicide going on. So we were looking particularly at teenagers, LGBT versus non-LGBTQ youth, and military veterans and survivors of sexual assault. And so we looked into why there was more than 100 people per day were killing themselves across a particular spread, and how we could effectively combat some of those problems. So it began as an engineer working on social media, looking at online bullying, and you can see now they're working to try to eliminate hate speech. These types of things. Again, your voice matters. How you speak to yourself and how you speak to other matters. So very strong message here. So long story short, this was 2012 that I began that project. So that's 9 years ago. So in that 9 years between beginning looking at these numbers as a data scientist, my interest and participation in the healing arts grew. I became a yoga teacher. I studied Reiki. I became a Reiki master teacher. I traveled to India several times. I traveled to Ecuador several times. I'm now actually partnered. My partner is from Ecuador. He speaks Spanish. We own a healing center in the jungle, and I ended up in Toronto in a doctoral program for integrative medicine. And that's how I met all of you guys. So that's why that happened.
Wow.
Hope that wasn't too long of an answer, but they're actually more related than you think. Engineering and healing might seem very distant, but they're not. Computers and technology are more integrated into our world now more than ever. So I think it was the perfect foundation to launch my real childhood dream. So here I am, and that's how I got here. I don't know how to explain it better than that.
It's very
so I hope that
interesting.
makes sense.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And that makes sense. I mean, because both sides, you're right. They are related in that they're both dealing with, I guess, society and like how people interact with it, right? And like, whereas one is you're looking at everyone, but I think if you only look at everyone, then you can miss sort of the individual experience of it. And so going to the other side, you're kind of taking it from both angles. And I feel like you actually do, when you're making plans for, I don't know, say society, or when you're planning a system of some kind, it's important that you have to look at it from both ways. How does an actual person going through this experience it, as well as how does it affect the whole group? So
yeah. And numbers don't lie. Politics is one thing. You can smile and dance and get into beautiful conversations or fistfights, whichever way you go. But at the end of the day, numbers and mathematical proofs, they'll show you how to get there. So we can solve a lot of problems just by looking at the numbers.
Very interesting. And Josh, tell us a bit about your experiences and how you came to approach your chapter of the book.
Well, I'll start off with this. I'm not as experienced as Mary.
I'm older. I've got like 10 years on you.
Yeah,
so.
she has a whole line, But me, personally, I'm a full-time student at the moment, and I am an engineering student.
Oh.
So, when she was talking about that, I'm like, yep, it sounds right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think Mary can contest to this. The thing is, as an engineering student, engineers focus on problem solving, right? That's our main job. So we see a problem and we use the information we have around us, either that be numbers or materials, whatever it is. And we try to form solutions and we figure out how we could get those solutions, right? So that's what, when she was saying that, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Totally, 100%. But besides that, I also run a nonprofit group. It's called Guy Talk. And in Guy Talk, we focus on toxic masculinity. We focus on brotherhood. We focus on accountability and also motivating these young men, right? Stuff like men don't cry or boys only play sports, those are kind of stigmatized. We're trying to break those barriers. We're trying to say, hey, you know what? Do what you love. Take care of yourself. If you want to play a sport, go play a sport. But if you want to cook, go cook. If you want to dance, go dance. There's no set barriers for you, right? And then brotherhood and accountability, we talk about, staying accountable for your actions, staying accountable for the actions of your group mates, of your team, right? We got to think of ourselves as a community instead of individual people, right? Like once we get a kind of selfish, we kind of lose our vision. We kind of get blurry, right? And then motivation. I feel like you can never stop motivating a person to reach for greater things. So it's kind of, that's what my group focuses on. Interestingly, we had our first event at Ryerson this year. It was a virtual event too, because of, again, COVID. It's a COVID thing, man.
Yep.
But we had a lot of students come out. We had guest speakers. Both were police officers who spoke about the stigmatization, right? And if you think of a police officer, you always think of like this, very strong man, always with a gun and stuff. And we asked them to touch on, their human side. I always try to focus on, stop thinking of, being a good man or being a good woman. Try to be a good human being, right? That's the main message I want to focus on. And this all started in high school, actually, when I remember I was walking into the washroom, not ditching class per se, but, just sneaking out for a bit, go to the washroom. And I saw a guy, he was very frustrated and he just punched the mirror and the thing just broke. I was there and I was shocked and I just left. I had to pee. I didn't have to pee after seeing that. I just turned around and walked away. But thinking about that, as I was walking home from school, I was like, okay, at what point are we going to do something about it? If each one of us keeps seizing, like we see this and we're like, oh, and we just turn around and walk away. It's like none of our business. At what point is this going to stop? Right?
Wow. Great job.
So it's kind of like these small incidents. It's not this one big event, but these small incidents that I've encountered, that I've seen, that again jogged my memory. That came to a point where like, okay, you know what? Let's do something. Let's see what I can do. I'm an average person. I'm just an average student. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a famous politician. Nothing. I'm just an average student trying to do the best. Right.
And I wanted to ask, so what eventually led you, in terms of your chapter, you chose to approach it from the perspective of the ego. So what brought you down that route and thought that would be your best angle of approach? Well,
on my initial stages, I was thinking of, let's touch on one of the pillars that my foundation works on, right? Either toxic masculinity or brotherhood or motivation. But then it got to a point where I'm like, okay, these are 4 good topics. Which one should I choose? So I kind of took a step out and tried to find something that connected all these pillars, right? And one of the things I came across was ego, right? If I'm egoistic, saying, I'm a man, I can do this, that kind of pulls me down a bit, right? If I'm egoistic to the point where, I don't want to motivate him because he could do better than me, that puts me down even more. If I'm egoistic to the point where, I don't want to get in trouble, let him get in trouble, selfishness comes into play there too, right? Again, ego was touching on all these pillars. So I was like, okay, let's do some research on ego. And I read some cases, I read some books, I did my own research, and I found out that there's way more than we think there is, right? I barely just scratched the surface. So at that point, I'm like, let's talk about ego. Let's put this small idea out there and let's see what people fish out of there, right? And that's how ego came into play.
Interesting.
So you found it was one of the, one of the common elements in all of the things that a lot of these problems that you were seeing, a lot of them relate back to the ego.
It's kind of like, you could think of a spider web, right? If you have 2 trees close between each other, one tree is one pillar. So we could say my first tree is toxic masculinity. The other tree could be brotherhood. The spider web is kind of like the common elements between it because it's touching both trees. It's kind of like connecting them. The spider is ego. It's the one that's webbing all these connections, right? That's kind of like, I try to use analogies a lot just because it kind of helps us picturize it better, right? So yeah, that's how this whole, I want to say, process came about.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. So yeah, both of you guys, I'm excited. I want to read this thing. I'm very interested to see where these perspectives come from. Say once more, we're going to do the commercial break in a moment, but first let's get the title of the book one more time, and then I want to come back and we're going to talk, we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of these topics. But tell us a bit about what's the book and when and where will people be able to find it?
So it's titled Be in the Conversation. And
Be in the conversation.
It'll be out in June or maybe July of this year. You'll be able to find it in physical copy through the typical Amazon, etc. You'll be able to order it online or through any of us. And there will also be an ebook version if you just want a digital copy. That'll be available.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, we're going to do the quick ad break, ladies and gentlemen, and then we're going to be back with more of this enlightening conversation with Mary Long and Josh Robinson. Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode of The Sit Down is brought to you by some very important people. Wouldn't you say, Regine?
Mm-hmm.
They are, of course, our fantastic advertisers who really, they make this show possible, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Hey, Regine.
Yes, Scott.
Do you want to find out what your home is really worth?
Perhaps.
Are you buying, selling, investing, or renting a home?
I am.
Well then, Jennifer C., realtor at Home Life Culture Link, is here to help. Call or text Jennifer today at 647-403-8887. Don't deal with just anyone. Speak to a professional. Jennifer C. at Home Life Culture Link. To see her current listings, visit homelifeculturelink.com. The Mortgage Godfather is here to give you advice with any mortgage needs you may have, and he will shop to find you the best mortgage. Nino Saimeka, mortgage agent. He'll give you an offer you can't refuse. Regine, he'll give you an offer you can't refuse. Find out more at mortgagegodfather.ca or call 905-604-6955. Jewelry Forever, conveniently located at CF Markville Shopping Center on 5000 Highway 7 East Markham. They do custom-made jewelry, repairs, and change watch batteries, all done on site. Jerry over at Jewelry Forever is an absolute artist. If you have a vision for a custom piece of jewelry, he is the man to make it for you. And we have an amazing deal worked out with them, don't we, Regine?
Yes, we do. If you go in when the stores open again, let them know that Scott and Regine sent you, and you'll get 15% off your entire purchase.
That's right, 15%, 15%. Mention the show. Tell them Scott and Regine sent you. You'll be sure to find something beautiful for the special person in your life. And find out more at jewelryforever.ca. And it was brought to you by Deliciousness Treats.
Hot chocolate bombs, dipped Oreos, smash cakes, and more. If you are interested in still ordering for Mother's Day, a late Mother's Day gift, or just to treat yourself, find us on Instagram at deliciousness_treats and on Facebook at Deliciousness Treats.
That's right, everybody. Deliciousness Treats. Sweet treats for you and a friend. The perfect gift for Mother's Day, for Easter, for Valentine's Day,
for your birthday,
Father's Day,
yes,
birthday, every occasion,
any day
calls for a exact and just every day, and just Tuesday,
any day,
every day calls for a deliciousness treat. Get in touch, everybody. And if you would like to advertise on the show, it's very easy, right, Regine?
It's simple. All you guys have to do is email us at radioshowad, that's radioshowad@gmail.com.
That's right. We do this show live every week, ladies and gentlemen. And it's because it's live, we also do the ads live, which means you can personalize those ads week to week. Do you have an event, a sale, something happening at a particular time and place? You let us know. We let your potential client base know in real time. It's a very magical and special relationship that you as a business can build with new potential customers. Get in touch. radioshowad@gmail.com.
And Scott, while you're at it, why don't we advertise our merch?
Oh, sure. Guys, if you want to sip like an absolute champion, you need to go to, where is it? Teespring.com/the sit down mug. You can get an incredible sit down mug or a sit down t-shirt. And also at that same store, if you go to teespring.com/store/Scott Dion Brown, which is the store that this is part of, you can also see all of my Scott Dion Brown merch, which launched recently. So you can check it all out there. Teespring.com/stores/Scott Dion Brown. And if you just want the mug, teespring.com/the sit down mug. Sip like a champion.
Yes.
Right, Regine?
Yes.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, welcome everybody to episode 130 of the Sit Down with Scott Dion Brown. We're here with authors Mary Long and Josh Robinson. Hello, Nightwolf. How are you? Welcome. Troy Bernier says, "You guys rock." Thanks, Troy. You rock too. I miss you over I can't wait to one day come back to Miami for the festival, whenever we can go and explore once again. Oh, and my mom just stepped in. Good morning. Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, hello, Mary and Josh. We are here. They're talking about the book called Be in the Conversation.
You got it right.
Yeah. And it's well, we've been talking about it all episode. It's a very, very interesting book, and I think also could help a lot of people. One thing I wanted to ask about in general, because you guys both sort of touched on the idea of so from an engineering perspective, you're looking at sort of all of society and solving problems in that way. But then this book also seems to take more of a personal approach to how individuals can maybe navigate living in this society. And one thing I wanted to kind of ask about is, because I've heard a lot about it, is that the society that we're in now, it's one that's more connected than ever before in human history that we know of, right? And so, but I've also heard a lot of things about how loneliness is also at an all-time high. And I feel like some of the stuff you're touching on in this book can almost talk about that or address it a little bit. And I did want to get you guys to weigh on a little bit, not necessarily if it's specifically loneliness, but just sort of how can some of the things in this society that's really help a lot of people and make things a lot better with, being able to connect so easily. But why do people also feel, I don't know, kind of distant from each other in a way? I don't know if either of you guys want to weigh in on that.
I'll start. I feel like, we were talking about, again, you said loneliness. I found one of the most effective ways to not feel as lonely. There's always going to be times, late at night, 3 a.m. I know the vibes, the music plays, Marvin's Room in the background. Yep. But I feel like just getting out in the community, the connections you build when you're volunteering, for example, when you're part of a group, when you're starting a show, just like you guys, when you make those opportunities for you to go out, explore, make connections, you kind of start building strong relationships, and you'll be surprised. A lot of my friends, it just started out being like, hey guys, you know what, you want to do something? Mm-hmm. Or, I join a club and they're like, oh, you like this too? I like this too. That's how you build those connections, right? It's a way, there's many ways to keep us, busy, to keep us involved. But one of the most effective ways personally is just putting yourself out there.
Cool. Yeah, I do find it's I don't know, it's a weird thing, like how, I don't know, let's say something like Facebook, where I can jump on Facebook, don't go on that often anymore, but you can go on and you can get a rundown of sort of what everybody that you've known, even from like high school, elementary school, what they're kind of all doing. But so it's like you feel like, oh yeah, you're kind of there with them, but at the same time, you're like, you're not really though, because like they're over there, Mm-hmm. And so in this weird way, we're more connected, but I guess what you're just hinting at, Josh, is there is still that element of you can almost feel like you're connecting to people, but there's still a part of you that needs to actually go out there and actually reach out and like make that extra connection. Yeah, maybe it is that like the way it is now, we're feeling like we're connected, but it's almost making us lazy, and that we don't feel the need to actually, I don't know, pick up the phone and call somebody or actually like reach out directly.
especially with texting, texting DMs. We live in a very virtual world, right? So instead of like, getting down out of the car, going and ringing the bell, hey, I'm outside.
True.
The small stuff, when you go ring the bell, you might see, your friend's mom, your friend's dad. You could talk to them. Hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. Why don't you come inside, have a cup of coffee? Maybe not now. Okay, maybe again, COVID. Just wait a little bit longer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but pre-COVID or even after COVID, right? And I think, Scott, you could relate to this. The gaming community it's a pretty big thing. Discord servers. If people who like the same game as you can make connections with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're on the same call. You guys are playing. You guys could be like, hey, so what do you like? What do you don't like? And you'll be really surprised how many people are ready to open up and talk, right? It's very surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. I mean, a large part of since I've been doing gaming streams, I started doing gaming streams when the pandemic started, and this whole community has started building up just out of again through video games. You're exactly right. It's like this shared interest. But when you're chatting and even just in the chat with people, you don't just talk about the game you're playing. You start to get to know people and get an idea of their personality and stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. Mary, I wanted you to weigh in on some of the challenges facing this sort of modern society now that you think we could address.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So thank you for both of your inputs, and Regine for patiently listening to us. Be in the conversation. So that's what it's about, right? People are feeling lonelier now than ever. And I'll segue. I used to be a gamer many years ago. I played MMORPGs. So I never live streamed. Like I wasn't that cool or pro about it, but I spent hours a day, and I definitely had my online community, my gaming, and I played things like World of Warcraft or EverQuest. So we get into these real fantasy characters or like Dungeons and Dragons, but on the computer. And so really cool MMORPGs, which is massively multiplayer online RPG. So I can relate with you from a gamer perspective and navigating some of these more modern forms of interaction, because in a lot of ways, like I went to engineering school, right? So I was a girl, obviously. I'm a woman, I'm a female in engineering. And so I was typically like the only girl in my class of 200 people or 250. Wow. And so I was involved in very many extracurricular activities, which met a lot of my social needs. But honest to God, engineering I found to be incredibly lonely as a woman. And again, that's that sort of feminine or relating, emotional, empathetic, intuitive side that I really felt was missing very significantly in my career. And it was a problem that I struggled with, not just in professional industry, but even in academia, in actually university. So I escaped a lot I was in the theater, performing arts. I worked in the stage, backstage, and I played video games. And a lot of times my guild, for those who don't know, it's like you have a group or like a tribe online, and you might go to war together. You might, join in on weekly meetings with your community, for example, going and playing or meeting, like in EverQuest, you'd go on a raid or you'd go slay a boss, go kill some monster, and you all work together. Those people became some of my closest friends. You meet online every day, and I actually shared. And there was a point in my life, maybe about a year after I graduated college, when I realized that I could either be amazing in the game, or I could be amazing in real life. So did I want a level 100 bossed out character with full armor and like all of the flares? And did I want to continue like having these online dialogues every day? Or did I want to actually go to the gym and go, because I was heavier, because I was sitting on the computer all the day. Like, I was like, what if I actually go and begin to take care of myself and my body? What if I work out 3 days a week instead of 3 days a week on the video game for 6 hours? I started to look at, am I cultivating a life that is amazing in cyberspace? But what's happening to my human avatar? Like, what's happening to that human body and my human personality and human relations? So honestly, when I was in my early 20s there after college, I sort of put the games down. I'll do a little bit, I'll pick up here and there, but I said I'm going to prioritize myself over my online character. And that was literally the first step that I made in my own self-care and self-love of taking care of my own mind and body, and then external social relationships. So needless to say, my social community shifted a little bit. I still love and care and am connected to those folks I used to play with, but I've cultivated much more real life connections in relationships, and allowed myself allowed myself more self-expression, and allowed more gym time, more outdoors. I got a dog. I got a boyfriend. All these things. Like, I changed sort of my external world, and I started making my real life awesome. And then I just went back to the game sometimes. So that was a big click for me. And then number 2, I'll say, is because now we have, I understand video games. I know and I love them, but that was honestly in my life. That was a huge thing that I did. And now 10 years later, I'm in my 30s. I don't regret that. I'm really glad that I made that decision. So I really wonder who I would be had I continued on the path that I was on when I was 22, 10 years later. Who would I be if I hadn't made that change? So that's something to think about. I'll plant that seed for you. And then now we're in the pandemic. So you might think, well, video games are my only option. All I've got is Facebook. What am I supposed to do? So I hear you there. And so looping it back to earlier in the conversation, we talked about, for example, as an engineer, we looked into these numbers. We looked at how many people, frankly, are committing suicide per day, and what are the groups. And so we found that there was in the San Francisco Bay Area. We were looking at teenagers. We were looking at military veterans and sexual assault survivors. And so actually we found that a significant number of, the demographic for a 30 to 36-year-old male video gamer, specifically Xbox player, but we looked at other gaming platforms, they actually had the highest incidences of certain types of psychological problems and of suicide and other issues because of how much hate speech and violence, like Joshua was saying, that guy punched his own reflection in the mirror. That's like walking up to the camera and saying, swear F you, Mary, bam. Why would I do that to myself? I mean, that's how some of these guys are treating each other. And so this is actually, we have to treat it like the serious mental health issue that it really is. So I think you guys are doing an extraordinary job at bringing this up and out into the conversation. But so just so you know, other perspective, there are other people like me, for example, who know and see you and love you and care and are actively trying to, help support. So some folks, all they have is online gaming. They might not have the social skills to reach out, or all they have is Facebook. And some people are elderly, trapped in their apartment. They've got no one to talk to, or they're in North Manitoba somewhere and they don't, it's too snowy to get out. Like, some people only have the internet for communication. And so that's where 2 things we can look at: going inward. So instead of getting all of your social needs met by seeking external fulfillment, you can become your own friend and begin to love yourself and start to generate health and love from within, as in my chapter, or All Things Yoga. And we also have the option to take those processes or those inner learnings and sort of smoothen out ourselves so that when we do re-engage in contact on social media, online, on video games, or out in the real world, that we can do it with a softer, more tender heart, loving ourselves and another. So those are some effective strategies individually to navigate that can help solve this loneliness, because personally, I find it very difficult to befriend someone who wants to punch me in the face. Yeah. So as much as I try, and so these are the sort of strategies and techniques that I'm focused on and for problem solving at this point. I hope that made sense. Covered a lot of topics there, but those are some of my thoughts on these issues.
Absolutely. It sounds like what you're touching on, I think both of you to an extent, is finding almost like a a balance. And if you find that one part of your life becomes too maybe becomes too large or too much of a focus, especially if it's something that can be negative, then it's worth it to like look inwards and try to, like you were saying, apply that. Like, so you said for gaming, you said you were putting so much of your life into one part of it that you're finding yourself neglecting other parts. Or I know even Josh, you mentioned how you could become, if you've got too much of an ego and you're focusing, it's pushing you one way. It's a good way to take that energy and focus it kind of in a more positive direction. Mm-hmm. So it seems to be finding that balance and finding almost like a positive outlet for it in a way. Seems to be pretty
balance.
Yeah. It's very cool. Oh, Troy Bernier says, "Great points, Mary." Oh, I think you typed that when you were talking about what you were saying.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Ice. Welcome to the show. Welcome. Oh, Raisa is here as well. Hi, Raisa, and Ali as well. Hi, Raisa. Wonderful, great points. Go, Josh and Mary. Hi, Scott and Regine. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Raisa, and also Ali is here as well. Hello. Mm-hmm. Oh, Troy Bernier asks, "How many of you play Eve Online?" I've never played that one. Have you guys? Any of you guys played that one?
I don't play games online.
I've been playing Apex.
Have you ever, Regine?
No. Scott's tried to get me to play Among Us, and I'm like, it's not me. It's
not for everyone.
So where do you get your social fulfillment if not from online video games?
I compete in pageants. I'm a reigning queen at the moment, so a lot of my interaction comes from volunteering, charity work. Right now I also do my own sit down, but it's the pageant sit down, which is twice a week. So this is where I get my social interaction, whether it be on a Monday, a Wednesday, or a Sunday.
Good stuff.
Awesome. Wow. Troy says Eve Online is the competitor to World of Warcraft.
Oh,
I see.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it. I never actually played World of Warcraft either. You know what I think I found is, like, I played games a lot when I was younger, like a kid and into my maybe early teens, and then I kind of fell out of it. I don't know if I just got busy with other things. And I mean, one thing is I really loved video games, and I kind of, I don't know, almost forgot about them or fell out of them. And then it was really this past year that I started playing them semi-regularly again, and I was like, I forgot how much I like this.
Semi-regularly, Scott?
Well, now you're right. Now it's Monday to Friday. That's true. You're right. So now it's every night. But it's like, I like this. I missed this. But to what you were saying, Mary, it's a good point in that if that became all I did, to the point where I start neglecting kind of other parts of your life and neglecting other, maybe your family relationships and yourself and all of that, I think that's when you can start to kind of get into trouble, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I think having some healthy limits. I love how you phrased it around balance. I think that's a nice way to say it, because playing video games is not inherently wrong, and they can even have some benefits. Mm-hmm. But having it's a common problem, and it does affect mental health when it becomes an escape from the rest of the world. So just keeping an eye onto that. Mm-hmm. And did you guys know, I'll throw in a fun fact, that if you are having a trauma, like say you get into a car accident or something, if you were to whip out a Game Boy and start playing, putting your focus on the video game actually distracts your brain from the trauma, and it reduces the pain that you're processing. So it has sort of a numbing effect without any medication, and it will actually, to stimulate that sort of healing response, it'll put you in a better frame of mind. So video games have a lot of really cool and interesting use in trauma therapy and in recovery. And they even have they have some cool virtual reality things where you can put on the goggles and you can walk through a garden or something.
So sick with those on.
Yeah, they can give people nausea, but for when you get folks coming out of the military, for example, and they have some post-traumatic stress and they have some mental health problems going on, or they have shell shock from a war or something like that, they have some trauma, when they you can give them these guided virtual reality meditations, like go into a yogic meditative state, put on this video game VR and then walk through a peaceful, calm garden reality, you know, in the mind, and you'll subconsciously reprogram. It's like hypnotist deep inside. So video games have some extraordinary potentials. It's not just all shoot 'em up games, but this is why we want to bring some conscious awareness into what are we doing? What's the content of our video games? Like, are we all playing Grand Theft Auto and learning to just shoot each other instantly, or are we putting some more strategy involved? Because games can teach us things like cooperative skills, competitive skills, communication. I mean, they have some fabulous benefits. Like, we're not hating on video games here, but keeping it in balance and in check and making sure that we're engaging in healthy role playing is a topic of conversation that I think is extraordinarily affecting this modern and younger than I generation. So I think for you guys, that is something to look at as you're going through your years.
That's
I
awesome.
gotta find my DS now. I don't know where it's
Yeah.
going. Maybe keep it in my car.
Hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Well,
I think so. Oh, go ahead, Regine.
I was going to say, Scott has a lot of his gamer friends on watching right now. So there you go. That was perfect.
Yes. Thank you.
Troy says, Mary is rocking it. I love it. You're so right. It is all about the game and what it is used for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
You're
makes
using
sense.
it for good or evil.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, also what you were mentioning, the one when you were saying the demographics that were having problems in looking at the gaming, and you mentioned the 30 to 36 range. I'm wondering, because how you mentioned there's that sort of therapeutic element and like how it can numb certain things. I wonder if there's probably a relationship to like a lot of men in that demographic. I think that's when a lot of guys do face a lot of challenges in their life in terms of, you know, what should I be doing? Am I achieving the goals I want? And there's a lot of those pressures. And I wonder if a lot of them, you're seeing a lot of those challenges being faced, and they're turning to video games almost as an outlet in that same way.
Scott,
how you
is that why
described how
you're
it
playing
can.
video games? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I can imagine there are people, if they are facing those challenges, it could be something that they use as an outlet. Do you think there's something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're right on. I think these are excellent topics of conversation. I don't know how Josh maybe translated into guy talk here for me, but yeah, absolutely. I think men tend to mature usually in their mid-30s, so they're sort of reaching full emotional maturity and becoming man, not boy, when they're in about the early mid-30s. And so that's definitely a transition point. Where there can be a lot of emotional or psychological challenges, or perhaps they've like gotten married or are having some children or something. So there can be big life changes. So it's definitely, each unique individual has their own experience, of course, but as a group, we tend to go through these sorts of experiences together. And so definitely significant life challenges to navigate, whether it's a partnership, a marriage, or a birth, or a career change, or some people start losing parents at that age. There can be so many reasons. And so these were almost 10 years ago that I was looking at these particular numbers. So those people who were 30, 35 at that time are now 40, 45 at this time. So when you look at that, and so they were an older generation than me. So they had a different social layer. Like, you guys are a little bit younger than me. I was a little bit younger than these people that we were studying, referring to those 35-year-old Xbox. So I was in my 20s at the time. So looking at those folks, that older generation, their generation had not addressed some of these social etiquettes or behaviors or norms or conversation. Like, I just want to say, Josh, I praise you. I am extraordinarily honored to know someone like you. I admire you, and I think what you're doing is extraordinary, because frankly, someone like you didn't exist in my generation. Like, we needed someone like you. We didn't have that, and I know that it didn't come before me. And so I'm just like really honored to be here and see these sorts of changes. And so, yeah, when I was looking at these numbers, you look at, so how many, have any of you gone into Facebook jail or like LinkedIn jail? Have you ever like said something and gotten censored, or do you know somebody who has?
No.
Donald Trump. I think Donald
Besides-
Trump.
okay,
right?
besides
Yeah,
Trump.
he's the main one. Yeah, I've personally I've kind of been removing myself from most social media posting things outside of Instagram,
Oh,
but
she
I am
means,
aware,
Have you been taken off, like forced off of it because
like
of,
canceled.
Yeah, like has,
Yeah. Have you been
has
canceled?
Facebook
I
canceled
haven't
you off?
personally.
It's a
Ooh.
funny story actually.
Josh, you have?
Early stages of guy talk. A lot of people, when you talk about, support, like a support group for men, it usually tends to rub off the wrong way when people don't understand what you're really standing for, right? So the early stages of guy talk, this was back in high school. And, high school kids it's a whole different ballgame, They really don't try to understand the concept before they comment. They just comment first. And that's when they learn, okay, I should not do that. And then they change themselves, right? So during then, I had like you'll be surprised actually, yeah. But like the early stages, there was like a bunch of people who would go on Twitter and be like, you know what, Josh, I don't know why you're starting guy talk. There's all these support group for men. You need more support group for women or more support group for, the LGBTQ community. Why are you doing this? You're just supporting masculinity. You're not supporting femininity. And that kind of projected when I got valedictorian for high school too. That negative effect kind of carried on, right? People would be like, wait, why are we, like the people who understood it were like, okay, it makes sense. But those odd number of people who didn't, they would try to rush into that. But once, like few of them still didn't get it. I don't know what to do about that. But the ones who did understand, they came up and they said, okay, why are you doing this? Once I explained it to them, they're like, you know what? That makes sense, right? Because the point that they didn't really view was by removing toxic masculinity, we're kind of supporting women at the same time, right? The toxic masculine traits, such as, boys don't cry, makes it okay for men to open themselves up to say, you know what? It's okay to care. It's okay to treat people with respect. It's okay to treat women with respect. That type of stuff. That's the thing. There's a lot of connections you start making when you tackle one pillar, right? That's why it's kind of hard to like mention everything in this small time we have. But I feel like as people start to read it, even on your own research, there's tons of YouTube videos now, documentaries. Just have a look at them when you're bored, when you got nothing to watch, when you're done your favorite show. Just like watch a few of them, here, they will spark something in your mind.
Awesome. Let's, wow, we've already been going for, an hour and 20 minutes. This is awesome. It's shooting by so quick. But before we wrap up, I do want to, let's get maybe some final thoughts. I don't know if there's how to wrap it up nicely, but maybe some final thoughts in terms of either about the book or like if you have a final message for maybe people who might read the book or just
your guys club.
or guy talk. Yeah, either one. Just something you want people to take away, maybe if you've got a final thought.
From personally, I feel like before diving into this book, this Be in the Conversation book, go in with an open mind. Be ready for different perspectives, for different opinions, for a different definition of a word you thought you knew what it was, right? Just be open to different change. After you're done the book, feel free to compare your perspectives, to compare, your knowledge with the knowledge you got. And I feel like this book especially is something that you could keep reading over and over and over, because I can guarantee you're going to miss a lot of stuff the first time you read it, because it's just packed with a lot of good information, but we made sure not to overcrowd it. You know what we made? Like, it's there, but you got to kind of like, spend your time, maybe read a line over here and there, and find the small humor jokes we kind of hid here and there too, right? It's a good book. And it's not like those big, thick textbook edition. It's a thin, small book. Either you're going to the washroom and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna leave my phone. I'm gonna take this book, or if you got time, a hot cup of
Wonderful.
coffee, anything, just go in with an open mind, right? Stepping out of the book, coming into, guy talk and all that stuff. I feel not only my organization, I could only promote my organization because I'm part of it, but, feel free to reach out to me. Guytalk.inc, that's the Instagram handle. Feel free to reach out there. But also, if you have a specific community you want to help, or you're seeking help, right? There's always something out there. Don't feel pressurized to say, you know what, I don't feel like I can open up. I feel like I'll be judged. Take care of yourselves. It's the biggest thing you can do. You are the investment for your future. Before you do any other investments, invest in yourself, right? And again, like few of the phrases I mentioned, balance, like what Scott said, a huge thing. Sometimes being in the middle border, it's not black or white. It's not one way or the other. It could be both, right? I don't have to like only coffee or tea. I could like both. Maybe I switch it up here and there, Same thing. There's just tons of stuff. But yeah, just take it step by step. Go easy on yourself. Treat yourself with love, and we'll all be fine. And this is coming from an average person, an average student, just living a normal life, right? You don't have to be Bill Gates. Okay, maybe not him. He just got divorced. But you don't have to be Elon Musk, or you don't have to be someone super famous to live a good life. You just gotta be you.
Beautiful. And Mary, your final thoughts.
Sure. So I want to say everyone's voice matters. So you might not think it does, but it does. And now here's the thing. Your voice matters, and what you're saying matters. That doesn't always mean that you're saying the right thing. So your actual voice, like the sonic acoustics that you put out into the universe, they have real physical effects. And period, like point number one, you're using your voice is important. So in other words, don't stay silent, don't refuse to communicate. If you're having a trouble, speak up and ask for assistance. But also, perhaps more importantly, is what you say matters. So when we look at our communications with others, Guy Talk, Josh brought up a whole lot of amazing points. Sometimes men placing themselves into positions of vulnerability is very challenging because they are taught not to. They're taught to always be strong and brute and manually and protective. And so many men are suffering and they would never let you know. That becomes really dangerous because you can't throw out a lifeline to somebody if you don't know that they're drowning. And so for those of you out there who are having a really hard time, I encourage you to speak out, to begin to ask for support, and folks like Josh and I will continue to normalize that happening, and there to be supportive, safe, vulnerable spaces for you to come in and be perceived well. So definitely learn to use your voice, and then consider what you're saying to others. So that begins with what you're saying to yourself, and so that's where I again invite you to come in through the breath, to join in on one of those meditations. Please read my chapter. I walk you through it, connecting with your voice, honoring yourself, beginning to self-love, and then resolving conflict within yourself and with others. You can start there. Josh can provide some of those lovely spaces, and he does amazing questioning on the boundary and the intersection between our interactions. Like, how far can we go? Is it egotistical to put my needs first? Is it okay for me to be selfish? Where are the boundary lines? So he does a really fun playing of exploring and sort of technically defining with his engineering mind those boundaries. I love it. I'm doing the same on the inside. So put those two together, they are a mighty, mighty force. Very happy to work with you, Josh. And so proud to be here. So yeah, I really invite you all to read the book, Your Voice Matters, and use it well. Use it lovingly on yourself first and watch the difference. So if you want to start punching yourself in the mirror, by the end of this, you're going to be looking into the mirror with kind eyes and saying, wow, I really accept, love, and support you. And so that is the goal. That's the sort of transformation that I wish to see and achieve with my message.
100%.
That's great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
This is what a perfect place to wrap things up. This was a great conversation. Really appreciate you guys being here. In fact, why don't we quickly get you guys to plug any social media or anywhere you guys, if you have something you want people to follow you at, you can start first, Mary.
Sure. So if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Facebook at Mary Long Teaches Yoga. Like literally just Google Mary Teaches Yoga, Mary Long Teaches Yoga. You can find me on Instagram at Yogini Mary Long. So Yogini is the female form of yogi. I'm not a yogi because I'm a girl, not a guy. So I'm a Yogini, Yogini Marylong. Yogini Mary Long is my Instagram. You can also find me at Reiki Master Mary Long. So follow me there. Love to connect with you.
Awesome. And Josh?
For me, my name is Josh, but it's spelled different, so you guys gotta bear with me there, okay? My Instagram handle, you could catch my personal one at JOUSHR, so Josh R. And also you could catch the Guy Talk Instagram handle at GUYTALK.INC, guytalk.inc, right?
Cool.
Anything from questions, concerns, comments, even if you want to have just like a general conversation, shoot me a message, shoot me a DM. I'm here. I'd love to talk. I'd love to meet people, especially now, talking. There's a lot we could do. So reach out and hoping to hear something.
Perfect.
Awesome. And I put those links in the description. Mary, it was facebook.com/Mary Teaches Yoga.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'll double check. I put that there for now, but I can switch it up. But I put the Instagrams for both of you guys down there below. So make sure you follow these very interesting and inspiring people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Scott, are you gonna do that thing where you do like, smash that bell icon, subscribe now, and hit the like button and all that stuff? Or?
Yes, we definitely. Well, you just did, so that's
There
good.
you go.
There we go.
But yes, everybody, of course, thank you guys all for tuning in. If you have enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and also make sure you follow our two guests as well. Also, Regine, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on my YouTube channel live every Monday and Wednesday for the pageant sit down. This week I have some amazing guests. The CEO of Galaxy Internationals and Belize Latina will be on tomorrow, so make sure you tune in. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook at It's Regine Alaina. I don't use Twitter anymore, so I'm not even going to use that. And you can follow my pageant journey. So as I mentioned earlier, Galaxy Internationals is 3 months away. So make sure you follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Ms. Galaxy Canada. I almost forgot my title. Scott, where can people find you?
You can find me right here where you're watching this very video, youtube.com/Scott Dion Brown. And like we were just saying, hit that like button. Boop that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well, although like Regina, I am using Twitter less and less, but that is me, Scott Dion Brown. You can find me on TikTok, Scott Dion Brown Official. And that's it. Ice says, I love things. Ayo, hey Ice, me too. I also love things. Thank you for tuning in. All of you guys, you could have watched any video in the entire internet, but you chose to watch this one and join us on your Sunday morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And for that, we're very grateful. And thank you all for watching. Once again, Mary, Josh, thank you guys for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Make sure you check out Be in the Conversation, a wonderful book that will be launching in a couple months' time through APSO, APSOW. You can look up APSO if you want to find out there. They also do a show live on Thursdays, I believe it is, so you can look them up.
Check out our show
and
or our episode.
Exactly, that's right. They were also guests on the show, so you can see our interview with them as well if you look in the playlist of all these episodes here on this channel. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you all next time.
Happy Mother's Day.
Bye, everybody. Oh yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.